welcome back to Food Prep Guide. We are back in the kitchen today with another canning tutorial, and this time it is all about strawberries. We are making our strawberry jam. My children love a good PB&J, and I like to try to keep a variety of jams and jellies on hand for that all throughout the year. So one thing to note about jam and jelly making is that we can't typically double or triple a batch. So I have a lot of strawberries here. I can't just throw them all in the pot with all the other ingredients and make it all at once. And that's because it will affect the way that the jam sets. You can end up with syrup instead of jam. And that's because we need a very specific ratio between fruit pulp, sugar, and pectin. And if those ratios are off a little bit, you can end up with just a syrup instead of an actual jam that really sets up. So I have a lot of strawberries here, but what I did to prepare for making this jam is I took all of my strawberries and I ran them through my food processor. I just pulsed it about 2 to 3 times. I didn't want to blend it up into like a puree. I wanted some good chunks of strawberries in there. So I just pulsed it 2 or 3 times and then poured them in these 2 bowls. So as I work through this jam recipe, I'm going to have to make it multiple batches. And for every batch of 5 cups of fruit pulp, we're going to end up with 4 pints. So let's get started. By the way, if you would like help building your food storage, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for our free 1-year food storage plan. We calculated a year's supply of food for one person, then broke that data down into a week-by-week list of items to build your pantry on a budget. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss all of our upcoming food preservation, pantry storage, and gardening tutorials. Now back to the kitchen. To start, we're just going to add our 5 cups of strawberries. And these need to be crushed strawberries. I use my food processor, so they're slightly more than crushed, but I still got some good big chunks in there. And to that, we'll add a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. We'll give this a good stir. Next step is to add in our pectin, but we need to add it gradually, so I need to get this good and stirred first. Now we're going to add 4 tablespoons of pectin. And to do it gradually, I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon at a time and stir before I do the next tablespoon. One tablespoon. 2. 3. And 4. I use Hoosier Hill Farm pectin. When I first started out canning, I used the Sure Gel, that's just available at like Walmart, and I always had a hard time with my gel or with my jelly setting. I ended up with syrup a lot, or just really, really runny jelly. So I switched to Hoosier Hill, and it's been fantastic. I highly recommend it. Okay, now we're just going to bring this to a rolling boil. Okay, we're at a good boil here, so I'm going to switch to a whisk before we move on to this next step. Now at this point, the jam making process goes really fast, so I'm going to do my best to just keep the camera rolling and show you what's going on. So the next step is to add in our sugar, and we're going to bring it to a very hard rolling boil, but we need to stir it almost constantly. So I'm going to add in 5 cups of sugar. And 5. Okay, so we're going to give this a good stir and make sure it's all fully dissolved. And I have my burner on as high heat as it can go, the highest setting. At this point, we're going to wait for it to come to a hard rolling boil, and once it does, we will time it for 1 minute and stir it constantly that entire minute. So we are at the point where I can no longer stir the boil away. I just stirred it and the boiling never stopped. So we are at a rolling boil. So I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute and we're going to stir the entire minute. Time is up, so now we are going to immediately take it off the heat and start the canning process. The first thing we need to do before we can can is to skim off as much of this foam as possible. So I just have a bowl here and a big spoon, and I'm just going to start skimming off as much of that foam as possible and discarding it into the bowl beside here. Now that I've skimmed off as much of that foam as I can, it's time to fill our jars. We're going to fill each jar to a 1/4 inch headspace. A 1/4 inch headspace is approximately right there. Woo, jars are hot. I forgot to mention this, everything goes so fast with jam and jelly making that I forgot to mention that I did prepare my canner before I started boiling that sugar, before I added in the sugar. So you want hot jam going into hot jars into a warm, almost hot canner. This jam looks very liquidy at the moment, but it needs to process for 10 minutes and it is going to thicken up after, like during the cool down process is when we're really going to start seeing that jam or jelly consistency. We probably won't see how the end product is really going to look until 12 to 24 hours. Maybe by tomorrow morning I might have a good picture of how the jelly is going to set up. Looks like I'm only going to be getting 3 pints. That's okay. Next step is to debubble. Now we need to wipe our rims. It's very important to wipe our rims when we're working with jam and jelly because of all that sticky fruit and sugar. Next step is to put on new and clean lids and rings. And into the canner they go. I am double checking to make sure my jars are submerged underneath an inch of water, and they are, so we're good to go there. So we're going to put the lid on, turn the canner to high heat, And we're going to wait until our water comes to a hard rolling boil, and this jam jelly needs to process for 10 minutes. Our processing time is done, and here is our strawberry jam. Delicious. We have a whole video dedicated to what to do post canning, and I will link that above in case you are interested. Hope you all enjoy, and we will see you next time.